Surely is the mind, both conscious and unconscious, that creates all our problems. The mind can then solve the problem it created. This is a fundamental point for a meditator. So, how do we transform ourselves if our every action is decided by the mind? Our every action will be wrong, since it comes from where the mistake originates. So, if we want to bring about a fundamental transformation in ourselves, we cannot rely on thought as an instrument of transformation. First of all, you need to understand what the speaker means by transformation. The speaker deals only with a spiritual transformation, that is, of a change in the center from the ego to the soul. I use the term soul arbitrarily. The superficial change does not interest the speaker. By superficial change, the speaker means become better, richer, more spiritual, acquiring more virtues. They are all superficial activities on an equally superficial mind. So the real problem is not to change, but to be centered not in our ego, but in our soul. All our effort must be directed towards discovering this new center from where to operate. Until we find it, our action will always be wrong, no matter if they appear right. When we start functioning from the center to the soul, all our action will be right, even if in the eyes of everyone else they will seem wrong. In other words, the difference between evil and good will no longer exist. The only thing that will exist will be the pure awareness. This is the meaning with the use of changing the name when a person becomes enlightened. In India, where all Eastern religions were born, Gautama the Buddha, before becoming enlightened, was known as Siddhartha. After enlightenment, his name became Gautama. The name Buddha means the awakened one. So, the name change is used symbolically to indicate the change of the center where a person lives. An enlightened person lives in the ego. An enlightened individual lives in his soul. Our main problem is knowing what we need to do to get to know our true center, which the speaker called soul. We cannot listen to ourselves, since we are the mind. The mind creates all our problems. Therefore, it is not logical to follow what the mind suggests. Because any suggestion from the mind only create new problems. So the birth of the desire to be helped by someone else seems entirely legitimate. But unfortunately, this creates new problems. The desire to be helped creates in our mind an idea of which we will become slaves. So, we will turn to someone else to find a solution to a problem we have created ourselves. This indicates a superficial mind that will never be able to solve problems. The problem of someone seeking help in another person is that which unconsciously will create authority. Authority of the priest, of the teacher, of the book, of the detector. When we turn to someone else to solve our problem, both spiritual and material, it makes no difference. This person will turn it to will acquire power and use it. So, we are faced with a dilemma. If we spiritually work on ourselves alone, we will not know what to do, because what we decide to do will always be wrong. If we surrender to a master, we will become a superficial person who is unable to solve his own problem. And we will be psychologically dependent of the master. If we then turn to a false master, the problem will grow exponentially. My suggestion is to use the middleware. If we want a real transformation, the only way is to find an enlightened master. Once we find him, we will surrender to him totally, but we don't become dependent of him. A true master will do everything to prevent his disciples from becoming dependent of him, while the disciple will do everything to become dependent of him and copy his actions. This is a difficult problem. If we do not completely surrender to a master, the transformation will not take place. If we do this, the risk of becoming addicted to him is high. The moment we become dependent of him, the true transformation becomes impossible. We are facing with a subjective problem. That is, there is no solution that is suitable for everyone. Listening to a master is not an easy thing, because it will always be our mind that will interpret his word. So, our interpretation of his word will always be wrong. Surrendering to a master means that we will no longer listen to our mind, but we will listen only to our master, because he knows the truth and we don't. The main problem we have to face is where to find a real master. 99% of the masters are false. Only 1% is true. If the speaker knew of some enlightened master alive, he will have no problem sharing it with you. Unfortunately, the speaker has no idea. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, many Western people had the opportunity to sit at the feet of enlightened masters in our day, it will not seem so easy. Certainly, with so many Westerns who have had the opportunity to become devotees of enlightened master, some of them have become enlightened in turn. It is up to us to find them. Another problem is that for a master, to work on people are always been very difficult. This is because we live in nations that have total control of the territory. The nation will do all they can to prevent a true master from having a place to work on his disciples. Even the existing cost and regulation make the possibility of having a place where a true master can be left alone and work on his disciple practically impossible. The speaker gives you an example on this concept in the past. The alchemist. Of course, there are other examples of this in our day, but it's generally easy to objectively judge something from the past. To objectively judge something that has happened before our eyes is more difficult. Alchemy was an esoteric system from the past that was looking for a way to find the divine part of man. In other words, they were looking for meditation techniques. Obviously, with the Christian religion's power, it was absolutely not possible to do this. All people opposed to Christian religion were killed or forced to convert. Alchemy is an esoteric science. The first aim was to transform man, to make him rediscover his true divine nature. The alchemists tried to hide themselves using allegories to avoid being killed. The method was for hiding from the minister or worship were various. The most famous was to appear chemist who tried to turn lead into gold. In our day, nothing has changed. If a true master wants to work with his disciple, he has no choice. He has to hide. Obviously, he has to use different allegories. Maybe open a spa zone, where people are apparently interested in massage and thermal bath, but the reality is very different. Thank you for listening.